Welcome to the Box Angeles podcast with me, your host, Mike Elder. Thank you so much for listening to the program. For those new to the show, let me run you through what this is. Basically, I sit down with show business professionals, actors, writers, casting directors, and I talk about how they navigate show business, how they handle the up and downs, and lately, what is their mental health like during these work stoppages? Just being honest. If you are new too, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoxAngeles. If you're in Spotify, click subscribe. If you're over in Apple Podcasts, click subscribe and share the show. It means the world to me if you guys share it and give me feedback. I love feedback. Feedback's a gift. Send all the negative or positive comments my way, and I read them all. So we've got a great episode this week. I'm talking to comedian, actor, improviser, Mary Holland. Mary is so funny, you guys. I love Mary. I've been a fan of Mary forever. I used to see her perform all the time at UCB. When I was an intern there, she did this podcast way back in like the 30s, episode 30 something. It was 2014, nearly 10 years since I had talked to Mary. So it was really good to catch up with her. Ever since I had talked to her last, she's just been crushing it. You've seen her on shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Fresh Off the Boat, Curb Your Enthusiasm. She wrote a movie, Happiest Season, a holiday movie that was absolutely delightful. She was also in it. She's been kicking butt, and we had a really, really good conversation about improv, about her team Wild Horses, and about how she just sort of doesn't try to focus on the things I like to focus on, like the numbers of auditions, and just lets the chips fall where they lie. So this was a really good conversation. Mary is a delight. It was really great to catch up with her, and I'm not going to waste any more of your time. I can't even talk, and now here I am wasting your time. Okay, without further ado, I give you
Mary Holland.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
It's so good to see you.
You too.
Mary, you're one of the funniest people in the world. I'm so happy that you're kicking ass.
Oh, thank you.
You know you did my podcast 10 years ago?
I know, because I was looking at, I looked it up. I looked up the last time I did it. It was episode 37.
Oh, wow.
And it was
300s.
2014.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy.
Did you listen to it?
No.
Okay. Scared.
No.
Back when we were young and
I'm
naive.
divorced from my past self, so.
Back when we were young and in our
I
20s,
know.
probably, yeah.
Yeah, I was just 17.
That's true.
No, yeah, it is, yes, it was in my 20s.
I think we're
It's
the same
a whole
age.
different, oh, okay.
What's
yeah.
exciting about that, though, is like, I feel like right around then you had just gotten Blunt Talk. Do you remember?
Yeah,
So-
yes, it was right then.
Yeah, and now,
That's
like, you're
right.
just bing, 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 flying. I see you in everything. I saw you in the Jake Johnson movie I watched a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You did Happiest Season during COVID. That was phenomenal.
Just before, thank you.
Yeah, because you were recording I asked you to do the 300th episode, and you were so
Right.
gracious, and you were like, yeah, I would, but I'm shooting something in Pittsburgh, and that was Happiest Season, right?
Yeah, it was.
So that was right before COVID, though, and then that was phenomenal. It's just, I'm really excited for you. I get to see, there's a bug, or am I having glaucoma?
This is my assistant.
Sometimes you start to wonder at
I
our age,
know,
you're like,
I know what you
maybe it is
mean.
glaucoma.
I have
Those,
the
like
same
floaters
thing.
or whatever.
Yes, the floaters freak me out so much.
No, it's awesome to see all this success you're having. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I got to start with some tea, though.
Yeah.
This is going to drive me bananas, this bug. I heard Wild Horses is Finn, no more.
Yeah.
That's the
I mean,
rumor.
I don't think that we're...
Give me the Goss.
the Goss.
The Ryan Goss.
The Ryan Gosling. Oh, big fan.
Ooh.
Big fan. Who isn't? The Goss, there's no Goss. It's mostly like, and I don't think we're sort of shutting the door on ever performing together again. I think, of course, that door is always open, and we love what we built and like had so much fun with each other. I think it sort of felt at it. We just kind of looked around and realized it had been 10 years of doing the show, and it just felt like, okay, I think we're ready to see what happens after, see what else is out there. And also, like, I noticed this for me, those other women I think are so brilliant. But with myself, I noticed that I had gotten into a bit of a pattern of with the improv. Like I was sort of, even before shows, I'd be like, okay, this time I'm not going to do the thing that I always do. And then I would end up doing it again. So it just kind of felt like we needed to shake it up.
Yeah.
You know? And especially for me, because I was like, what? I'm not being a good teammate right now to these women. So yeah.
But isn't that interesting? Like, I don't think they probably felt that way. You were probably just beating yourself up for doing how I'm interpreting this is you would fall back to the same character or same moves essentially every time, and you didn't feel like you were
the same dynamics. Yeah, with the characters. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if they. You're probably right that they didn't experience it that way, but what's interesting about improv teams is that you really can, because you're making the content. Like it's not like you do a run of a show, like you're doing a play, a written play, and you do that for 3 months or whatever, and then it's over. Because it's improv, it can truly go on forever. It can go on however long you want. And so it is up to you, the team, to be like, okay, is it still feeling fresh? Do we want to, how does it feel? And we were all on the same page with it, at 10 years. We're like, that felt like we had a great run. So
you guys all like kind of felt the vibe at the same time and just came together and were like, let's disband?
Yeah. And it wasn't even that. Not that terminology. It was mostly like, I feel like we did it. We had like a really great time. And we also, another thing that we wanted to be mindful of was not doing it into the ground, like not spinning our wheels with it where it got to the point where we didn't enjoy doing it anymore. Like we were still having so much fun doing the shows, and so it felt like let's end this really positively, and that's great. Yeah,
you guys are like the Beatles of improv teams. So now you're on your solo careers, I feel like.
Oh my gosh.
And somebody might get murdered now that I'm thinking the comparison.
Oh no. Oh God. Oh boy.
You're the Ninja Turtles of
Oh, I like that. Okay,
Which
great.
one are you then, Raphael?
Oh well, I would always want to be Michelangelo, but I know that Lauren loves Michelangelo too, so we would fight over that. Yeah, the party dude.
What is your relationship with improv now? Like, you're still performing, you're still doing a lot of that stuff, you're still doing the podcast and everything. So do you still love improv as much as always?
Always. Yes. That improv, I think, is a pillar of my identity. I don't think I will ever be done with it.
Yeah.
I do. It is interesting to see over the years how that relationship has changed and shifted and will continue to evolve. It will always be a part of my life, but I think, speaking of like being in your 20s, you have endless energy. And time and if you no responsibilities, but fewer responsibilities. Right. And so you're able to kind of throw yourself into this pretty demanding lifestyle. It's a blast, but it is it does require a lot of your time and energy. And so it's fun to be in a place now where I feel very much that the improv and comedy world is my community, and that foundation is there.
Yeah.
And I can trust that it's there. And like in my 20s, I was like, I want to be, I want to build this thing. And so there was a frantic energy to doing it. And now it's nice to have a sort of, I can roll up, know everybody who's doing the show, and just have fun doing a show. And it's more of a relaxed relationship.
Yeah, that's sort of the tricky part for a lot of people. What I'm saying is that's a good thing that you landed into. I feel like a lot of people, when COVID hit, didn't get up to that spot, and then just started over, and they never made it to a point where they could just jump in a show or whatever, and it just kind of ruined it for a lot of people, unfortunately.
I know. I can only imagine. It's crazy how much these big moments in life are due to timing and events that are so far beyond our control. Oh, yeah. And it is, I feel very lucky that I was in that phase of building that before something like a global pandemic where that knocks the whole scene on its side.
Or even, and I don't want to like diminish anything.
Oh,
because I preface this by saying you're the funniest person ever. But like even the timing when you got in at UCB, like before it was like mainstream.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Do you ever reflect on that? Think about
It's a whole different landscape now. When I started taking classes, UCB in LA was only 2 years old.
Yeah.
It had been in New York for a long time, but was relatively young in LA. And so it was, I think that was a critical part of getting to build that in such a way, was getting in early when it was still a pretty small community.
Right.
But now, it's a whole different, it's so huge.
Well,
it's exciting.
What's your thoughts now after it's selling? Did you have sadness about that?
I did. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. It's interesting talking about wild horses and change is the only thing that's not going to change is that things are going to change. You know what I mean? And you can print that on a T-shirt if you want to.
That's from Big Magic, right?
That's from Big Magic. That's right. And I did plagiarize that directly from Big Magic, but I think it definitely was healthy that in the aftermath of the pandemic, there's a lot of re-examining the culture at all these comedy theaters and holding them to account and taking a look at the bottlenecking that was happening with students not getting opportunities to perform and all of this stuff. So I feel like it was very positive, the re-examination of everything and the shifting. But it's the end of one chapter of that theater story. And so there was oh wow, we're in a new place now. And there's always like a sadness to when big change happens, but also that change is maybe overdue.
Yeah,
inevitable. Exactly.
I emailed Besser a couple weeks ago to see if he'd come talk about it, because it sounds like none of you guys knew it was happening, right? Like they didn't tell any of the performers.
No, well, it was interesting. I mean, I'm sure there were so many things happening behind the scenes that I am not privy to, but it's as we were emerging from the pandemic and all these other theaters started reopening, dipping their toes back into, doing a few shows. And we're all wondering, well, when is UCB going to happen? And will it ever reopen? And just kind of questioning what the future of the theater would be. And then we did get an email that they had sold it. And I think, I think I can only imagine how difficult it is to run a comedy theater.
Oh yeah.
But then also have it start as something so small and become so big and be responsible for all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's thriving now, and like it's got new programming and new artistic directors and all of that, and it's doing great, and it's just in a new chapter.
Yeah. When I interviewed Matt Walsh many years ago, it was a year or two after UCB Sunset opened, and he was like, I never pictured when we started UCB that we'd be selling grilled paninis.
Right.
Whatever.
And espresso.
So like it completely went so far away from what they had obviously initially intended, which is great.
Yeah.
It reminds me when IO West closed. I was obviously much closer to IO West.
Right.
And when that closed, it was sort of one of those things where it was like, oh, damn. What now? What next?
Yeah, I know. I remember when that closed too. Yeah. And I initially started taking improv at IO in Chicago. And so that was how I first got introduced to the improv world. And it was such a different animal out here in LA. And, so tough. And so tough that where it was, like the location, it's all, there's so much of it. Running a theater is hard. I can't even.
I think the problem is the creatives were running the theater when you need a business person running the theater.
Yes.
Creatives should manage what's on the stage, not the business aspect. And that's what fucked IO. And I don't know how much that messed with UCB.
I don't either. But I think that's a great point. I think there really needs to be if you are going to, the intersection of creativity and commerce is always so tricky.
Yeah. Speaking of,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, you mentioned as we sat down, is this live streamed?
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on like Dynasty Typewriter and stuff live streaming? I had Stephanie Allen on last summer and I asked her about this. I don't think she liked it. Do you have because the thought is always like, this is here now for this moment.
Totally. I agree
never
with that.
translates. Do you have an opinion on that?
I do. I feel that way about most improv shows where it feels like it is such an intimate experience. It is very ephemeral. You do have to be there to really experience it. And so it doesn't quite make sense to me to always have access to a live stream. However, the flip side of that is not everybody lives in a place where there is improv happening and or can't get to those places or see those shows. And I love that there's accessibility in that way. But I think where I land on it is having a few select shows be live streamed and knowing that ahead of time and that being built into the understanding of what the show is wonderful. When you're just doing an improv show and you're like, that was recorded and people saw that, people who weren't in the theater, then that feels it almost there's a vulnerability to that I could see not enjoying. So I think if you're very like intentional about when you're live streaming, that's great. But I would love for not every show to be live streamed.
So you're saying don't somebody start a pirating business of
yes, please.
improv shows where it's just like a weird Blair Witch camera on the bottom poking up your nose at the stage.
Oh gosh, please. Let's not do that.
I got the old tape of Wild Horses on 7/4/19.
Right. Oh my goodness. That's the other thing is that when you're improvising, you have to be able to lose yourself in it.
Yeah.
And if you have an awareness of, okay, this thing is going to live on forever, you just naturally find yourself holding back a little bit more or being more aware of what you're doing and not really just being super uninhibited.
Yeah,
in
towing
your
the
play.
line a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You mentioned, though, the commerce and creativity thing. Like, my understanding is Dynasty Typewriter pays well. You guys were doing shows at Largo, which pays really
definitely.
well, I know.
Yeah.
Where's your head at on that?
Oh, I think that's great. Well, yeah, I think that's great. I think anytime an artist or creative person can monetize what they do and like bring their talent to the world, that's so exciting. And that's great. It's wonderful that these theaters, like the Elysian is another one. Like there's so many great theaters that are making it possible to do improv and get paid to do it. And I know UCB took steps to do that too. And so, yeah, I think if we live in a time, everything is, I'm probably going to sound so old. Everything is so expensive. Everything is so...
You sound old. You sound like America.
Okay, great.
Damn inflation.
I know. It's really tough out there. So I think you gotta be able to make a living. And if you could do it doing the thing you love to do, that's incredible.
I feel like you're in your agoraphobic era right now.
What's that? Or
you don't
why?
Want to go outside.
Oh,
you're just like everything's so expensive.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm much more hesitant to eat out because I'm like, this is impossible. You can't not spend like $25 on breakfast. It feels really tough.
You sound like my mom. Whenever my mom's in LA, she's like, "What? A burger's $3?" I'm like, "Where?"
Yeah. In what world? Maybe in the 50s, but not anymore. No, it's 20.
You're also getting paid for podcasts now too, right? Like, Bang Bang pays you a little bit, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't pay you anything. Just full disclosure.
Oh. All right. Well, this was fun. I'm gonna head out.
What did you do? What did you do to like keep up the momentum during COVID and then the writer strike? Because I've been asking a lot of my guests that because like that's something I struggled with. I felt like I got momentum right before COVID. I was in some good TV rooms.
Oh, cool.
And then right before the strike, I felt like I was auditioning for some big things.
Yeah.
Gone, and you can't get any like. For me, I've always wrestled with TV auditions, I get one a month at most. And so to get in a rhythm is hard when all of a sudden it's done for a year or 9 months or whatever. Like, how did you
so hard.
keep momentum up during that?
I
Also, people are going to watch the stream and just think we're grabbing at shit.
know, we're just like,
They're not going to see the weird bug that's...
we're just cleaning each other's aura. I during the pandemic, I wrote a ton.
Yeah.
Just wrote. Worked on various things with various people, and that was great. That really helped. The momentum that helped with the creative momentum. As far as career momentum, I don't know. I just just kept hope alive. I guess.
Hold it together in general.
Exactly. Yeah. And thankfully there were, I really thought when the pandemic hit and it was clear it wasn't going to end in a few weeks, I had a moment of, this is it. It's all over. It's all, like will film ever exist again? It was a true crisis. Dark. And then of course, it goes on, and in 2021 it came back, and I was fortunate to have auditions and get to do stuff, and so it did come back, but there was definitely a lull, in the same with the strike, and the same existential questions come from that of what is the future, what does this mean for the future? When you pause, you're forced to pause and take stock and look around and get perspective. It can be, you're like, what's going to happen? Very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's something I've wrestled with a lot. And I think I'm better at it now, is the idea like, if I'm not doing anything, I'm not helping at all my career. I feel like we're all about, as a society, like churning out like content or whatever, like busy's good. And like, that's something I wrestled with. I got better during the strike, the idea of like, I can take the night off.
Yeah.
That's just as important as making a bunch of fucking social clips for TikTok or whatever.
Yeah. And it's important to do, because you're right that we are in that mindset of go and make, which is, you need that too, but then you got to be able to like be with the silence of it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you really start like writing a lot? Have you always been doing that?
No.
Because you wrote Happiest Season, right? You co-wrote that?
Yeah, with Clea Duvall. Yeah,
is that your writing partner, or is that?
We wrote that together, and then we worked on a few other things together. And she's an actor, obviously, but then also a writer director, and we teamed up on. She had the idea for Happiest Season for a long time and wanted to write it with somebody, and we met working on Veep, and she invited me to write it with her.
Got it.
And so that was my first time writing a feature, and Clea has done that a number of times, and so it was a wonderful learning experience for me. And at the end of that, it was, a door had been opened.
Yeah.
And so I started collaborating with other people and writing other things. And then the more you just got it, like with writing, it became clear to me very quickly that in order to get better at it, you gotta just keep doing it.
Absolutely.
So
that was the first thing had you written stuff prior to Happiest Season?
Just small things like sketches and things like that. I had never, or like a TV pilot with somebody, but I had never done a full feature.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That was your first one.
I've been very, very lucky that Clea let me be a part of that, because that was, she for sure knew what she was doing, and I got to, learn so much.
So then you basically just got addicted to it and realized the repetition of it. So that's how COVID writing came about.
Yeah. And then also there was nothing else. There was nothing else you could do I wasn't auditioning for anything. Shows weren't happening. There weren't the usual creative outlets that I had gotten accustomed to having. And so writing became that, and it was a real lifesaver.
So at this point, do you budget your time at all between writing and acting? Do you and improv, I guess? Do you try to plan out what your week is how much you're gonna spend on writing, how much you're gonna
It's
spend on
not
it,
super
or
planned out. It just kind of is whatever happens to fall. Some weeks are very writing heavy, and then some weeks are very show heavy, and some weeks are very filming heavy or acting heavy. And I definitely am not planning that. I'm sort of, in a place of yes, please. And so whenever it comes, the opportunities come, I say yes and
Sure.
and write them out. But I'm not like, okay, I'm going to do 50% this and,
Yeah. Are you, so let me ask you a question about like auditioning wise. Do you audition much for these things you've been booking lately, or
yeah.
are you just getting them now through your relationships with comedy?
Well,
Ooh, stumper. I don't know if we need to restart you.
No, I've always definitely the first few jobs I had. Blunt Talk was through an audition, but also I had gotten to know those casting directors from auditioning a lot, and they're aware of the comedy world. So it's hard to say what jobs are. Oh, it's just because I knew a person or I had worked with that person before, and what jobs are strictly from an audition, because I think it's a combination of both. The more you do and the more you build relationships with people and audition, the more they get to know you, and then when you do have the audition, you're known. They know what you do, and then so it's just hard to say like, yes, that job was only because of the audition, and that job.
But essentially, you are saying you have booked stuff, but via offer. Like some of that stuff has come to you.
Not rare.
Oh, really?
Rarely. Yeah.
Oh,
rarely. I've always had to audition.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. I just had George Basil on again, and he got offered Barbie from Allison Jones. Is that crazy?
Really? That's so great.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then he took the SAG minimum. I'm like, dude, you should have negotiated a little more.
I mean, yeah.
But I would have assumed some people just offer you stuff.
I mean, I think I shouldn't say that has never happened, because it but rare. Yeah.
Because like Will Hines said, most of what he gets is from writers he knows.
Yeah. Well, that's those are those opportunities, the offers that do come in is because it is a close friend or somebody who,
Right. So what's your approach been with self-tapes? I mean, there's a nice setup on the wall right there.
Yeah. Get through them.
Do you have any like tips or tricks? Do you hate it? I find improvisers tend to not like self-tapes.
It's hard. Initially, I used to love doing self-tapes because I loved having a little bit of control over, I get to pick the take and I get to do it as many times as feels good. I really liked that part of it. And then very quickly it became clear that, it actually is better to get to be in person with the casting director who can give you feedback in the moment. And it's nice to have it feel like a performance. Like you maybe only get to do this once. And
Yes.
there's something really special about that. And I find myself getting really in my head with, oh gosh, I'll do so many takes and then I won't know which one's right. And then it'll take so much longer than a normal prep for an audition would,
Yeah. When you just said like it feels like a performance, I was literally trying to think when the last time I felt like pressure around an audition, and it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Before I used to do improv shows, I wasn't a pressure, but it was like that, that sort of energy in your gut coming up, excitement, nerves, all that. I haven't had that in a long time, and I used to get that when you'd go into for like a Wendy O'Brien or something, and it doesn't happen with self tapes. You get all the takes you want, and
I know.
I wonder if that takes away from it.
I hope they come back, but I feel like we discovered there's such a convenience with the self-tapes that I feel like they're going to be here to stay.
Yeah. From the casting directors I've interviewed, it sounds like they're just being told you didn't need an office, so now you don't, why would we pay for you to have an office type of thing, which sucks.
It does suck.
But I need that feedback. I miss that instant feedback. I tend to spiral on auditions because I'm like, was it good? Like, I don't even know if it was good.
You also don't get that really crucial part of those relationships with casting directors where they become you go into their office, you get to chat with them a little bit, they become friends.
Yeah.
And when you just are sending tapes in, you don't get any face-to-face interaction with them. And so you don't get to have that rapport, that camaraderie, where you're both kind of getting to know each other better.
Yeah, which is incredibly valuable, obviously.
Yeah, so
'Cause,
valuable.
they just can speak to your language or whatever, and vice versa, which I think is helpful.
Right, definitely.
How much do you improv on auditions? Do you stick close to the script, or are you like, let me put some of this Mary sauce on here?
I definitely don't call it Mary sauce. And if I did, I think I would be fired immediately. It depends on what it is. I think I mostly stick to the script, but if it feels organic to what's happening in the scene to like have it be a little loose, I'll do that. But I won't go off the rails or anything.
Yeah.
Unless they're like, go off the rails. Or I do tend to, I have a habit, which I don't know if it's a good habit.
Ooh, tell me. I like this.
I tend to, if it's a scene for a comedy, at the end of it, I will tend to improvise a button. Like, not that the scene doesn't already have a button, but I'll tend to improvise a little bit further at the end. Like, at the end of the scene, I'll add something that I don't know if it's helpful, but it does kind of help. Okay, I made it my own, you know.
Yes.
But for the most part, I try to stick pretty close to the script with just a little smooch of Mary sauce. Sorry.
Yeah, see, that's something I wrestle with, and I think that's why the room would be beneficial. They'd be like, feel free to add a button on the end. They don't put that in the fucking breakdown express, which is so frustrating. And then you don't want to email your agent and be like, like for me, I mostly get, the 2, 3, 4 line auditions, and I have to want to put some Mike sauce on there, but like you can't, because it's like, here's your package.
I think it's also a matter of understanding the character's function in the story and not overstepping that with the improvising, because you definitely want to show that that's a skill you have,
right?
But you also want to embody the function of that character in the story, and so maybe improvising is not appropriate for that,
Yeah, I always wonder if like I should do a thing in the intro, not necessarily improvise, but like movement into it or movement out of it at the end. Like I never even know, and it's so frustrating.
I don't know either, and I don't think there's any one way to do it. I think it's, who knows? I have no tips about that. I just sort of just do it.
Well, I think it's to your point. Like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But do you coach? Do you have a coach when you do self tapes or anything?
No. I don't, and it's not that I don't think I need one. I'm sure I do, but I already tend to get in my head a lot, and so I find that it's probably best to keep it a more singular experience, so that I don't get too in my head.
So if you read with somebody, is it usually your partner that?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. He's an actor, so that helps. I would assume.
Yeah, it does. But I have done self tapes with like my sister or my mom or something. And that's fun too.
Yeah, I've started coaching last year, like every audition, because I was like, I have friends that know my comedic voice, but at the same time, I like having a coach that is kind of more cruel and gives direction. This is really cruel, but like gives direction and pointed direction.
Yeah,
because I like that. I mean, I'm an actor. That's helpful,
especially with self tapes where you don't get to have that with the casting director.
Yeah,
then it's great to have feedback in that way.
Well, especially because like every actor doesn't want to see themselves, and here we are with a fucking phone looking right at us. I'm staring at me, and then I'm in my head about the things that I personally don't like.
Yeah.
The things like your improv, going back to the same tricks I like too. And it's like, I don't want to know that. So I find a coach to be very helpful with like getting out of my head for that stuff.
That's amazing.
So
maybe
try it. I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe it will. Yeah.
Wait, so you're rep by CAA now? Have you always been rep by CAA?
I was at ICM and then CAA purchased ICM.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How's that feel? Was that like did you have like a champagne moment when you suddenly were at one of the big agencies?
I mean, it was, it was exciting. I have been with my agents for a long time and I love them. And so when I heard that news, I didn't know what that meant for them, like if they were going to continue on at CAA or if they were going to go elsewhere or what was going to happen. And when they communicated, oh, we're going to go to CAA, then it was like, oh, great. How, yeah, it was exciting. But as far as there was no giant change in
right, it was
anything.
Since it was the same team and everything.
Yeah. But CAA is an amazing agency, and so it's exciting to get to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like one of those milestones. I bet where it's like, get your SAG card, get your first audition, get a big agency. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, ICM was a great one as well. Like a big. I remember when I first signed with my agents, it was so huge and exciting, and of course still is. So yeah, but that news came out of nowhere. It was just sort of like, oh yeah, CAA acquired ICM, and now that's happening.
How much are you auditioning? Do they send you out a lot?
Yeah. I mean, it ebbs and flows. I'm sure, like with all of us, it depends on what's out there and what's happening. And sometimes there's a lot of stuff happening, and sometimes not much.
Okay, I'm curious then. Like, let's get into the numbers if you don't mind. Like, what is like a good? I just like got in my head with my eyes closed. It's like picturing. What's like a good month for you? How many auditions is like a really good month? Are you going out like 3 times a week type of thing?
Oh no. I think it's very hard to give you a number because the strike changed a lot of stuff. And
maybe pre-strike, like where you
pre-strike. Yeah, I think having like 3 or so a month would be great. Okay. Yeah. Especially because I feel like at this point, I feel like I've established enough of like, this is what I do, this is what I bring, this is what I do, that I trust if I'm not being called in for something, then I'm not right for that part.
Sure.
So it's hard to quantify that because it doesn't necessarily mean that. I understand the question though of you want to be able to go out a ton for all kinds of different things, but you also don't know what's out there and if you're necessarily going to be right for it.
Definitely. And
you don't want to waste anybody's time. And so yeah, I think it's great to even saying the number 3, I'm like, is that true? I don't know. I don't really think about the number.
That's probably very healthy because I obsess about the number.
Yeah, because it that's a thing that's so out of who knows what that number, is hard to. It doesn't necessarily signify what it feels like it would signify. You know what I mean?
Sure. Couple thoughts. First off, are you still auditioning commercially?
Yeah.
Like every commercial you can be in, literally every commercial. So like to that point, I feel like you should be auditioning a lot, right? Because you could be the Tide mom, you could be the Toyota van driver. You know what I mean?
The Tide mom, the Toyota mom, the van mom, you name it. Yes.
And my second thought is like for somebody like me who, God bless me if I can book anything, an audition's a big win, right? So like,
sure,
like,
absolutely.
All right, we got one, right? So like, I like to see if the ebbs and flows, and I'm curious, like how many people, like how much successful people are actually auditioning. Like, is one a month that I get for TV good? Is that good comparably? I don't know. And
Yeah.
I like to ask just to get a sense of like,
Of course.
if everybody's struggling or if it's just certain people have good runs or whatever.
But I hear you. But this is what I mean is it's so hard to compare.
Definitely.
And the other part of that is that it's very hard to look at a super nuanced process like casting with a business mindset.
Yeah.
Because you will drive yourself crazy.
Definitely.
Thinking about the number and worrying it's not happening as much. I feel like as long as you trust, you have a good relationship with your representatives and know that they believe in you and they're putting you out there, then your job is just to rise to the occasion of the auditions when they come.
Yeah.
However, I also understand that you do need to be thinking, am I going out enough? Should I be going out for other things? Are they, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. To be clear, I have a very healthy relationship, I think, overall with acting since I've been doing it this long. But I like to sort of examine it in this podcast.
Yeah.
And I really like to get into those sort of nuts and bolts of that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I find
if I'm not going out enough, should I be taking a class? Should I be reaching out to casting directors? I haven't seen Ross Lacey in a while. Where are you at, Ross? You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
that's where my head, like I'm trying to dissect it in a way that's helpful for you and me and whoever's watching this type of thing. Totally. But at the same time, yeah, obviously.
Well, to answer your question though, in maybe a more in a more I don't think it's going to be direct, but I think for me, I find that it helps me if I don't think about that stuff.
For sure, yeah.
So I don't think about it.
That's probably healthy, and that's probably why you're kicking ass. And I'm over here pretending like I don't go to therapy twice a month, and I'm like, I need to book something.
Go to therapy too. Oh my God, we're all doing that. We're in a really tough space, and we've come through a tough couple years.
Yeah.
With
Definitely.
everything. So everybody's feeling that. I don't think anybody's not feeling it.
Wait, are you auditioning commercially much?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
I have here and there. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The 200 South is popping. I've gone there a couple times in the last month, and it's busy.
I'm glad that the commercial auditions are back in person. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people don't like 200 South, and I'm going to tell you who. George Basil was really anxious about going to 200 South after the podcast. And I was like, what? I love that energy of like being around people. And to him, it was just the idea of like, oh, I got to talk to people and waste all this energy on this when I should be putting it in the audition.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I get energy from those, seeing people from UCB or IO or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. It's like running into people at a show or something. It's really fun.
Yeah, I love it. It gets me excited, and I'm not competitive with auditions, but it does get me in sort of a mindset of, all right, let's do this, like a focus mindset when I see other people getting ready or their process type of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is my 2 cents. You should be
This
booking
is your
more
podcast.
commercials, though. I'm gonna
gonna
manifest that too.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think also I
just had a interesting question.
I would love any opportunities. I would be so excited for. I think
That didn't sound honest.
no, it's true. But I think that I also am trying to be in all aspects, like very, like we were talking about with improv, the relationship to things change, and you sort of I find myself wanting to be very judicial and very sort of intentional about what's being taken on.
So I struggle with that. I'm nowhere near that, obviously, but like I've had friends that book, a recurring, and then suddenly their reps are like, we don't want you doing co-stars. You're above that. And I'm like, why? To me, I'm like, do as much as you can and get opportunity. It's not going to diminish you. Like I watched Poor Things last night. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
Margaret Qualley was in a tiny role, and Margaret Qualley's obviously above that tiny role, but she was so perfect in that tiny role. Yeah. And I was like, of course she should be in that tiny role. But I'm sure her reps were like, oh, we don't want to give you this because it's you don't even have a line. You say feet like 4 times. And I'm like, so I hear you, but I always I'm curious about that.
Well, I don't think that I think it depends on where you're at and what your goals are at any given time. I don't think it's necessarily like this is how you have to be the whole way through your career.
Right.
It's wherever it makes sense. Like you're not feeling that right now, and so you should lean into what you're feeling like you want to be doing, which is
anything.
Yeah, so that's great. But yeah, I it's just sort of a mindfulness of what am I putting out there, and what am I, how am I it feels nice because we have so little agency and control as actors. It feels nice to be able to say, I'm interested in doing these types of things, and if something's not that, then it's okay if I don't do it.
To be clear, I support you saying that.
Oh, no, I know.
I don't like when teams like make that decision for people.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That frustrates me.
Yeah, of course. Well, that should always be a conversation.
Do you like, though, I just talked to George about this. Like, George feels like a lot of stuff isn't told to him from his team. Do you feel like your team keeps a lot of stuff from you? And are you good with that probably then?
Again, I don't really think about it.
No, I'm sorry.
No.
I keep inviting people to my house, and then I make them leave stressed out about like their careers. I'm such a bad person.
Oh my gosh. I mean, these are things to think about. But I'm sure there are conversations happening. I'm not going to be privy to every single conversation, and nor should I be.
Right.
But I just trust them and trust that if I need to be in the loop, I will be.
Yeah.
And trust also that they know me, and they have a clarity of relationship where they know if an opportunity comes in that I'll want to know about it and not want them to act on my behalf without me knowing about it. But there's that's not true for everybody. But yeah.
Do you have these conversations with them? Have you like talked to them about it? Just curious.
I don't know if it's been a direct, I want this, it hasn't been like that. It's just sort of, we've been working together for so long that there's a familiarity there,
right,
that it's just sort of how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that sometimes needs to be a conversation.
Yeah.
You got to make that clear.
My therapist would definitely tell me that.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to articulate your needs.
It's hard conversation though.
Yeah.
Especially for like people starting out. Like,
definitely.
We don't necessarily have the pick of the litter, and it's like,
yeah,
you don't want to be difficult.
I feel that way too. Yeah.
You do?
Oh yeah. Don't want to be difficult. Yeah. Of course.
You sounded so Midwest. Oh yeah. Don't want to be difficult.
No.
Oh yeah. No.
Can't be difficult.
Oh,
no. Yeah. But oh gosh, that's a big fear. But then yeah. But
my gasp earlier was because I realized you just have a unique situation where, are you like advertising on like Actors Access that you're pregnant?
No.
No? So you're not going in for like pregnant roles?
No.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Or does everyone just put on a...
I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Seems like a window.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. But no, I haven't been doing that.
It clearly wasn't as exciting to you as it was to me to have that realization. Oh, I'm in a different category.
It's a temporary situation.
Okay, so it seems like you have a beautiful head on you as far as separating from the business. So what do you do to like get away from the business? Do you have like hobbies or anything that you do to like relax or find yourself or like get away or breathe? Or
I honestly, getting to do improv I know that still is performing, but it's pure freedom and creativity, and it's just that really helps balance like the anxiety around all the other things that are out of control. It feels nice to just be able to be loose and free with that. And then with other things, again, I don't have like a real intentional way of going about it. Like, oh, I need to go do pottery now, although I have done some pottery.
How's your what's it called when you slap it down? That's the hard part for me. When you like stick it on, I can never get it to stick.
It's hard.
In the center? And then,
Oh, yeah, center. Oh, forget it. Centering is impossible.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's very hard.
All right, sorry. Those
No, but I like learning new things. I like trying. I love having new experiences. So going out to dinners with people and saying yes to like going to see a show or see something. Yeah, I feel like yeah, it's good.
And
to
at
just,
dinner, you're like, this food is very expensive.
exactly. It's the only thing I talk about. Yeah, but I crave an adventure, a sort of. I crave a wealth of experiences, I think, because that does enhance the other side of it.
Yeah. I like to do things that sort of I have control of to get away because of
That makes
everything we
sense.
just said.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
I can't control my agents, I can't control the casting, I can't control the auditions. Well, I can do it to an extent, but like golf, you know what I mean? Where it's like just me and this fucking golf club, and I have nobody to blame if it goes.
I know. That
Just
makes
like
total
mindful
sense.
things. Yoga, I've been doing a lot of yoga.
Keep you present. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
where it's just me against my body doing praying mantis or whatever.
Right. Right.
I find that stuff is like so great counteracting to just waiting to count auditions or whatever.
I know. Yeah, it is. And you need to have those things for sure.
Yeah. Is it picking up for you at all right now as far as work or no?
Yeah, again, hard to quantify. I mean, no, I'm not like actively shooting anything.
Yeah.
So in that way, no. But but there's other things, like there's stuff we're writing that's various
Yeah.
phases of development, and there's pitching, there's like all kinds of stuff that happens.
Since I talked to you last, have you had a day job? Have you survived solely on creative endeavors?
Yeah.
Oh, you have had one.
Oh no, I've
The latter, not the former. You've
That's right.
survived off of creative. That's amazing.
yeah.
Do you structure your day at all then to try to like? Do you like wake up at 8 a.m. every day to like start the day, or are you just sort of wherever?
I'm just wherever,
That's awesome.
whatever is on the docket for the day.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
That's one of those milestones we talked about earlier. It's like you're at a point where you can survive off of this. That's super cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's really surreal. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. Mary, the last question I like to ask people now is, who took a chance on you?
Who took a chance on me?
Take a chance on me.
I was just gonna say,
No, you weren't.
let's hop into that song. So many people.
Oh, tell me some of them.
But I think the big one, the one that really, I think, shifted things was my agent who I'm with saw me in a show at UCB, and she brought me in to ICM and wanted to work with me, and that her taking a chance on me changed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really big. And
Yeah.
that's the same one you're with now to this day.
Yeah.
That's super exciting.
Yeah. And then I think also so many casting directors. Jeannie McCarthy gave me my first job. She cast Blunt Talk, and my first job just before Blunt Talk was an episode of Silicon Valley, and
Oh, yeah.
and she cast me in that. So Allison Jones, like Dorian Frankel, there's so many amazing casting directors that every time. Wendy O'Brien is a great one too. Like they put me in something, I'm like, God, thank you for taking a chance on me. So it's it's hard to name just one, but
That's awesome
yeah,
that there's
yeah,
that many that come to mind.
yeah.
Speaking of, is there a point in your career, do you feel like, going back to the last question as well, that like you suddenly felt like a momentum where you're like, oh, I'm getting over like a hump and now I'm getting to the point where I can do this? Was there a moment of that? Or are you one of the types that is like, that might have been my last thing I just shot?
Yeah, that's always there.
Okay.
That's always
So you're not that
hovering. But I think the thing that grew over time, and I can't point to a direct moment that it started happening, but there became a point where I trusted myself a bit more.
Yeah.
And was able to not and trust that it's gonna happen. And so I just, I keep looking up because I'm trying to think of the word.
I gotta look up to that guy that you trusted.
Yeah.
That's great, but you can't pinpoint it.
No,
you just kind of.
There was not one
shift.
moment. Yeah.
I love that though.
Yeah.
But call me naive. You had to trust yourself a little bit to get into this business.
For sure. Yeah. But I think there was a confidence that grew every time I would get a thing. It would help the confidence,
Snowball.
and the confidence would help the faith, and it all kind of work together to make it have more of an ease about it.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like an intuition thing almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I'm putting Mary into this. I'm putting Mary into this audition. They're gonna like it or they're not, and I'm confident in what I'm putting out there.
Right. 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 And I'm confident that if it doesn't work out, that's okay.
And it wasn't on me.
It wasn't meant to, or it just, I'm not right for it, or for any reason. They didn't like the Mary sauce, and that's okay. It's not for everybody.
Is it hard for you to do like a serious podcast after all the fun podcasts you do?
No. But it is vulnerable. It's vulnerable talking about this stuff because it, like I said, it helps me to not
think about it
too much. No, but so that's just what I mean is it's tough to verbalize because it's all very feeling based,
right?
For me, Yeah,
everyone approaches it differently, right? And it's weird. Ultimately, it's just like you just can't think too much about it. And this podcast is doing the opposite of that, which is analyzing it to death, which is probably
but it's good to do that too. Like it's helpful to hear what everybody thinks about it and how they approach.
I know that, and that's kind of what we were talking about. Well, I was going to say you and Lauren being pregnant at the same time, you can relate to each other, and that's all we want to do, right? Is relate. We don't want to be. That's why I like seeing people at 200 South. Oh, other people are going through this. Oh, other people are stressing out. Other people are worried about this.
Yes, there's a community there. For sure.
Yeah, and we're not alone against a backdrop.
Yes.
Like, why does my left eye shrink more than my right eye, type of thing.
And it's just the whole thing is so vulnerable. Your product is yourself, and so it's very hard to not feel. It's all personal.
Well, thank you for having these hard conversations with me.
Please. And by hard, I mean just, I need to find good words for it. It's not hard as in I'm going to go cry. I feel fine.
I might.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm kidding.
Okay, me too. Yeah, I'll go do that too. Yeah.
I mean, crying's good.
It was great.
It's nice to see you, Mary. Thank you for doing this. This is great.
Thanks for having me.
I wish you nothing but continued success. Like I said, you've been kicking ass, and I love to see it.
Thanks. You too.
I don't know if it was a Box Angeles bump, but something after I saw you.
Get that Box Angeles bump.
I hate the name of this podcast, by the way.
You do?
I hate it. I have to explain it to people every time. It makes no sense. It's very confusing.
Right.
It's the biggest regret of my life.
You can always rebrand if you want to.
Yeah, because there's so many videos.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well.
Okay. Now we're in therapy corner. You have to slate a tail.
Oh, okay. With my name.
Whatever you want.
Have a great day. We did it!
MTV and the Channel E. A thing for celebrity.
Yes, the floaters freak me out so much.